Okay, this is Chris from Skycomp Solutions, and today we are going to be talking about the differences between Windows 10 and Windows 11, and if it's worth your time upgrading. Okay, so we're going to start with Windows 10, Microsoft's now older operating system. And we're just going to dive into kind of the functionality and look of it so that you can see the differences later on between this and Windows 11. So we'll dive into the Start menu. As you can see, 10 had gave you the ability to start pinning apps on the side here with a bunch of kind of default nonsense that's usually there by default. And then we have the entire application list that is really easy to see. We can just navigate through and find what we're looking for. We have the abilities to search right in the bottom bar here and bring up results, both work and web results. So the idea is that it matches based on your search. Although I do find that Windows 10 doesn't do a great job of this, especially when you're searching for files, and then it will just find web results. It seems to prioritize web results over everything else. And then we will dive into the settings. So again, if I just click this once and I can just click on settings here, so super easy. We can bring up some of the settings, and again, we're getting kind of that left to right view of the settings in a list. This is all pretty standard now that people have got used to this look over the last many years. And we have the ability to right click. And this is kind of the look of the overall look of Windows 10 UI. You're kind of getting the stiff edges. You do have the ability to customize the coloring scheme a little bit of File Explorer, but really Windows, they've made the ability to kind of turn on dark mode, which makes File Explorer and all your windows have an actual dark border and just kind of blacks out the background and provides white text. We can see File Explorer. This is kind of the look of it. We've got everything pinned on the side, and then we can search for our documents up in the right-hand corner. Again, we just kind of have this overall very boxy design layout. If we close that and we actually right-click on the taskbar, we do have our option for taskbar settings. We can dive into that. It allows us to lock the taskbar, turn on desktop mode, all of that kind of stuff. A quick way of seeing multiple displays, notification area, some key items in here. But yeah, just overall, when we do right click, the idea is that we have a bunch of different options come up, and we can also quickly get to the task manager, which I love. We can jump into this. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed recently that this has kind of appeared on their system after a Windows update. So this is Windows Update kind of attempt at adding widgets to the system. We kind of have a bunch of default items here. It looks very cluttered. It's not super organized. It's not really in the best spot. You find your mouse hovers over it constantly as you're trying to move along the bottom bar here, which, all you have to do is hover over it and it brings up this giant list of items, which is quite annoying at times, to be honest. But it is a little bit nice to kind of see the weather there at the bottom. That's actually can be disabled just by going to News and Interests, which is the new item that was added to this functionality, and when we can go to turn off. And yeah, so that kind of goes over most of the layout of Windows 10. We got the notification area and the kind of pre-selected options, the system tray, which you can drag things to and from. And again, within the File Explorer, we do have the ability to kind of just hit this arrow. They call this the ribbon, similar to the other Microsoft Office applications. And we have a lot of selections here. So there's kind of a ton of stuff you can do depending on which left asset you have selected. So if we clicked on this PC, then we have different options and different tabs along the top. Super helpful, super easy to see. Overall, I do like this layout. It's maybe not the most interesting though for the average user if they're not using a lot of this, but it is just nice to have it so handy. Windows 10 comes with Windows Defender, which is Microsoft's security antivirus solution, which was a big upgrade over what they had in Windows 7. So that we'll expand on that when we get to Windows 11 and some of the changes they've made, but it is a solid security product for the average Windows Home user. But once you kind of get into the enterprise environments and businesses, generally you'll want to upgrade to something a little bit better and get a third-party solution. Okay, now let's get into the pros of Windows 10 and why it might be worth keeping. Windows 10 does have a pretty easy to use start menu. All of your apps are quickly displayed, quickly scroll through them, which I like. Windows 10, you'll find that the user interface I think is better for maybe you could say more experienced users or more power users on the system, people who are using more of the functionality of Windows 10 than the average person, and diving into a lot of these context menus on different applications. Another pro is I do find that there are a lot of context menus you can bring up just by right-clicking on different things, whether it be your taskbar, open space on your desktop, different applications or shortcuts. A lot of context menus that make it easy to get to different items. But again, I think that's a little bit more for maybe more experienced users or power users that are doing more with the system than the average user. Now we'll get into some of the cons of Windows 10. Windows Defender, again, while it's a solid antivirus solution, it is lacking, and therefore we are finding that a lot of people will go to a third-party solution. Another con of Windows 10 is the search. Like I had mentioned briefly before, the search does seem to prioritize web results, especially when searching your computer for different documents or folders, which does become quite the annoyance because that is almost never what you're looking to get is a Bing search result for the search that you made. So that's, again, a little bit of annoyance and I think a misstep on their part. If we enable this news and interest again, I see where Microsoft was going with this, the ability to add widgets to your desktop, but I think this was another misstep. I think this is another con for Windows 10. It's nice to see the weather down here, but again, because you're accidentally hovering over this so often and bringing up this big menu, it can be quite an annoyance. So I think that is definitely a con of Windows 10. Although you can disable it at least, so that's good. Now moving on to Windows 11, as you can see just from the login screen alone, there are some differences. We can see that Microsoft's moved on to a little more what they'd call a friendlier, comfier font with the more rounded edges, and that goes for the text and the time. And we can see that they're still going with the different backgrounds that get randomized and give you some random facts about the world. So we can log in here, and then this part pretty much standard. And then as we can see here, definitely some new changes to the UI that we're going to dive into. So starting with the obvious, we can see that the new taskbar is quite different. Microsoft has decided to center the taskbar. A lot of people will notice it's similar to the MacBook style. And we can see that if we dive into the Start menu, the Start menu has changed significantly. So now we have pinned apps. These are apps that you have recently opened or you have actually pinned yourself. So now there's a little bit of an extra step to see all of the apps you have installed. You do now have to actually click on this All Apps button to then bring up the list of applications you have installed. You can also search for apps. Microsoft's search feature has improved drastically from Windows 10 to Windows 11. It now prioritizes local applications and files rather than searching the web. So just an example, if I wanted to search for something I've installed, it's going to bring up the best match. It's going to try its best to bring up something local rather than something on the web. So that search feature has improved since Windows 10. And the last new icon that Windows 11 has added to the taskbar is this chat feature. So this is actually Microsoft Teams, which is a free application to chat with your friends, your family, work colleagues. So it's basically their replacement for Skype. Now it's important to know the built-in Teams that is on this taskbar only functions when you sign in as a personal Microsoft account. So this will not work if you sign into a work or a school Microsoft account. That you would still need to actually download the Microsoft Teams application that I have here. So that's just important to know the difference there. Now we're going to dive into some of the features on the desktop. So previously on Windows 10, you would have noticed that this screen looks quite a bit different, and we can actually bring up some of the previous options that may now look like they're missing by this Show More Options subfolder. So this is kind of the look that we're used to on Windows 10, and it is a little bit of a pain sometimes, as you do have to, sometimes you're feeling like you're going a couple folders deep to get to where you need to go. You know, if I wanted to refresh, or if I wanted to, I think in this case, some of the add-ons, this scan for threats included in the antivirus as a plugin, I can't see that from the Windows 11 screen. So some of the integration is hidden in some of these subfolders, which can be a little bit frustrating at times, but it is still there. You just kind of have to find it sometimes. Let's take a look at the new File Explorer. You will also notice that all of Windows 11 screens now come with these rounded edges along the borders. So again, more of their comfier, user-friendly look. They just want to kind of clean it up a bit. So if we just expand this, we can see that there is some differences. Some of the difference being, if we look at the top, this is kind of a completely redesigned look. Again, where sometimes you're having to go a little bit deeper into options where they were previously just available. We can click on the computer. And again, all of these options which were previously displayed horizontally along the top are now kind of hidden within this subfolder. Cleans the overall look up a bit, but depending on how much you use these features, can be a little bit of an annoyance. If we right-click on the taskbar, we're no longer greeted with a bunch of different options that sometimes were pretty helpful, like opening the task manager. We would now have to right-click on the actual Windows icon in order to do that, which is also available on Windows 10, but before you had the choice. So we can dive into the taskbar settings, and this is where we'll be able to see some of these taskbar settings give us the option to turn on or off some of the new taskbar features that are included by default, such as task view, widgets, and chat, as well as search, of course, which I think most people would want to leave on. So we'll quickly go over each of these. So we can start with the task view. So this is Windows 11's version of the virtual desktops that you'll find on Windows 10. Windows 10 previously displayed it along the top. Windows 11 has now displays it at the bottom, and you can create new virtual desktops and switch between them at ease. We also have widgets, which is kind of a brand new category that's added. Microsoft was previously exploring this option on Windows 10. You may have noticed in some of the newer updates where they added the weather widget to the bottom of the right side taskbar. So this, now they've kind of expanded on that. You can actually add widgets, and you can customize and move these widgets around at your leisure. And so we've got the weather, stocks, news, your Outlook calendar, some of these, all these options kind of there by default. Okay, now we're going to dive into the new look of the settings window in Windows 11. So we can get there by just right-clicking and clicking settings. A little bit different. So on Windows 11, previously there was just a settings button when you clicked on the start icon, so that has been removed. So again, sometimes it feels like you're going extra steps to get to where you want to go at the cost of the overall UI design. From settings, everything is very similar overall. We still got system. It's just listing it kind of in a list format rather than left to right like it was previously on Windows 10. Sometimes Windows 11 does make it, again, a little bit more difficult when you're trying to jump into some settings. We can open our sound settings here. Previously, that would open in a smaller window that was part of Control Panel. Now the UI of sound is very different, and you're having to go extra lengths by clicking on more sound settings to get to the previous window of Windows 10 that looks like this. So again, an extra step that is really maybe not needed, but once you get used to their overall UI, everything that you could do in Windows 10 you can still do, just looks a little bit differently, or it might be in a different spot. But overall, the settings window and the settings feature has not changed very much. All of these options were available in Windows 10 and they continue to be available in Windows 11. Let's talk about some of the security changes in Windows 11. The goal of Windows 11 is essentially to make hackers' job just a lot more difficult. So Microsoft has made a lot of changes to hardware and software security. We can kind of touch on some of the main points without going into too much technical details. The first being that Microsoft has a TPM 2.0 chip requirement, which will be on your motherboard. You will not be able to upgrade to Windows 11 without this, and its job is essentially to make it a lot harder for hackers to inject code and malware into your system, compromising your applications and your computer as a whole. To extend on this, again, working with hardware and software together, they have basically included HVCI in all of their computers. This is also mandatory. What this means is it's called Hypervisor Protected Code Integrity, and this is to stop you from being able to download and run compromised unsigned drivers on your system, and it basically stops these drivers from being able to inject malware into your applications, into your computer, keeping you safer. They've made improvements to Windows Defender, and they've made improvements, which is the built-in Windows solution for antivirus. They have also made improvements by adding something called Smart App Control. And again, this is designed to not allow you to run dangerous applications that, again, can compromise your system and leave you open to malware attacks, that kind of thing. So between stopping bad unsigned drivers, dangerous applications, and their Windows antivirus running all the time, and some of the hardware changes, you can definitely be sure that Windows 11 is an improvement over 10 as far as overall security goes, which is very important, not only at home, but also very important in the workplace. Okay, so just to go over what we touched on, and we'll go over the pros and cons of Windows 11. One of the major cons, again, is just that the actual right-clicking on the taskbar itself, and right-clicking on different applications and not having the same functionality as you previously had. This seems like a step back, having to go show more options, having to dive into subfolders to get to where you want to go. Yeah, that definitely seems like a step back on Microsoft's part, and can become quite the annoyance sometimes, as well as your system tray icons, trying to find the settings to dive a little bit more into their features. Opens within settings and not the control panel feature that we had in Windows 10 that made things easier to do. But again, they're going for the overall better user experience just to make it easier for people who didn't previously use these features, who now can actually make changes a little bit easier. So depending on how you used Windows 10 in the past, some of these issues will be more problematic for you. Another con, or be considered a con for some people, is the start menu. Not being able to see all of your apps in a list easily can be a little bit of an annoyance, but Again, the same functionality is here. You can still pin your apps. They just look a little bit different. So again, I think this is really going to come down to personal preference on this one. And one last con actually is the fact that there are some hardware requirements for Windows 11. Not everybody is going to be able to participate in these upgrades, unfortunately. You do need, like I was saying before, a TPM 2.0 chip if your computer doesn't have that. And Windows will let you know that when you're doing the compatibility upgrade. It will give you the reasons why you cannot upgrade, and that could be one of the reasons. Also, there are requirements as far as hardware goes. You do need to have an 8th generation Intel processor or AMD equivalent. So again, if you don't have those hardware requirements, you just will not be able to upgrade to Windows 11. They are looking to possibly minimize those in the future and allow some of the older Intel processors. But as for now, you do need an 8th generation processor, so something within the last probably 4 years or so. The pros, in my opinion, the overall UI is great. The center taskbar, the rounded windows, the upgraded fonts, just the look and feel of Windows 11 I think is great, and I think it's going to be, I think a lot of people are going to prefer it over Windows 10, kind of on the mass market. I think it's a little bit more geared to home use than work use, but I think it's very user-friendly. The security upgrades in Windows 11 are drastic improvement over 10. Hardware and software improvements. This is definitely going to be an overall much more secure operating system moving forward into the future. Because of the hardware requirements, there's a lot more they can do, and if they've kind of future-proofed themselves. And to touch on the last pro for Windows 11 is the new search functionality. So it'll appear the exact same, but their search algorithm is just a lot better now. It's just an improvement over Windows 10 because it does search locally before web. You're getting better results, especially when you're searching for files, than previously searching for files and it bringing up a Bing web page that didn't really help you. So search functionality is quite a big improvement over Windows 10. And one last con actually is the fact that there are some hardware requirements for Windows 11. Not everybody is going to be able to participate in these upgrades, unfortunately. You do need, like I was saying before, a TPM 2.0 chip if your computer doesn't have that. And Windows will let you know that when you're doing the compatibility upgrade. It will give you the reasons why you cannot upgrade, and that could be one of the reasons. Also, there are requirements as far as hardware goes. You do need to have an 8th generation Intel processor or AMD equivalent. So again, if you don't have those hardware requirements, you just will not be able to upgrade to Windows 11. They are looking to possibly minimize those in the future and allow some of the older Intel processors. But as for now, you do need an 8th generation processor, so something within the last probably 4 years or so. Okay, so these were the differences between Windows 10 and 11. And if you are looking to upgrade, I think Windows 11 is solid. It still has the odd bug or two, but it's been out for about 8 months or so now. So I would recommend that anybody who's using their computer for home use, if you have hardware that is capable, if you have a computer capable of upgrading and you have the hardware requirements, I would recommend upgrading to Windows 11. You're definitely going to find you're just going to have a better, I think, overall experience, especially from the standpoint of security. So that is something I would recommend. As far as business use, Windows 11, there's still going to be compatibility issues with applications, and I don't think I would recommend this for businesses to actually upgrade to Windows 11 yet. I think being in the first year is still a little bit of risk associated with that. So if you're thinking about upgrading your computer in a business environment, I would not recommend, but anybody who has capable hardware and would like to recommend at home, I would recommend. And that does it for this video. And once again, that is Chris from Skycomp Solutions. Thanks for watching.